What's up, Yichi here. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can get your real estate license here in Ontario as fast as possible. Now, I've made another video detailing the costs of getting your real estate license, link in the description. In this video, we're going to talk about speed. Anyways, it took me about 5.5 months to get my real estate license. I started June 2022 and I finished around December 2022 while working full-time as a software engineer. And if I could redo it again, I probably could have shaved weeks, if not an entire month off that process, because I just didn't know how to do it as efficiently. So learn from my mistakes, and in this video, I'll tell you exactly how you can do it as fast as possible. In terms of the actual nitty-gritty stuff, I won't dive into it. This will be a high-level coverage of how you can succeed and get your real estate license in less than 5 months. It's totally possible. Now, in order to get your real estate license here in Ontario, you have to enroll in the Humber College Real Estate Salesperson Program. This program is comprised of 5 modules, 3 residential, 1 commercial, and the last one is sort of just getting you ready for the real world. And these modules are just basically online PDF slides, after which you write an in-person or online exam. And there's also 2 1-week-long simulation sessions with other classmates and teachers. And there'll be an exam after those simulation sessions as well. One of those simulation sessions is residential and another is commercial. Now, if you want to do residential and purely focus on that, you still have to do the commercial stuff, and vice versa if you want to focus on commercial real estate. But needless to say, you can get it done in less than 5 months. I'll walk you guys through very high level what these 5 courses are. Course 1 is Real Estate Essentials. It is one of the easier and shorter courses. It's sort of like an intro, a warm-up, if you will, into the program. It's comprised of 7 modules, and yeah, it's essentially just real estate essentials, the very, very basic stuff, and you should be able to fly by this no problem. Course 2, this one is massive. It is the biggest course in the entire program. Not sure why they put it as the second one, but it covers everything in residential real estate in terms of the relationship between the client and the agent, third-party relationships, construction, valuations. It covers marketing. It covers the offer process and paperwork. It is a beast. Now, pro tip, there are 3 modules out of the 20 that are related to construction. Just skim through those. There aren't that many questions on the exam. When I was studying, I didn't even touch those 3 construction modules. I'm willing to take 1 question or 2 questions on the exam where I guess. Totally not worth your time. I ended with a 90% on this course, skipping the entire 3 modules on construction. But yeah, this one is huge, and if you can get past this, it's almost like you're halfway there, or at least I should say 40% of the way there. Course 3, it's sort of like a part 2 to residential. It talks about rural, multi-dwellings, condos, farms, miscellaneous real estate properties, essentially. Now, there are how many modules? There's 9 modules here. Now, it may seem like it should be easier than course 2, but this is my lowest mark. And the reason being is the questions on course 3 are actually worded in a way that's quite tricky. So just because the content is a little shorter than course 2, pay really close attention to how they word the questions on the exam for course 3. Definitely a bit tricky, but everything should be fine. Now, once you're done the first 3 courses in residential real estate, you begin your first simulation session. This is all on residential real estate. There's no new material covered, but think of it this way. The first 3 courses are theory. The simulation session is application. You basically have handouts printed out, and there's breakout rooms with other people trying to get their license and experienced teachers, if you will. And everything is done online via Zoom. And you basically, if you follow and pay attention, you don't need to do any extra studying. You don't need to prepare. If you follow along, you will pass. The exams are quite easy relative to the other modules. Well, now we've finished all the residential stuff. There are 2 main portions left. One is Course 4 and one is Sim 2, both of which are commercial real estate. As I mentioned before, even if you don't want to pursue commercial real estate, these are still mandatory to get your license. There are 15 modules in Course 4. Sim 2, this is another simulation session. I think it's actually only 3.5 or 4 days instead of the whole week. It is much shorter. Again, it's application. This exam was the easiest exam by far. If you pay attention even at 80% in the weekly simulation session and you skim your notes again, you will be fine for this exam. They've made the simulation exams much easier than the module exams. Course 5, you're basically done. Course 5, there's no exam afterwards. It just click through. It talks about, what you should look for when you join a brokerage, what to expect when you're in the real world. And yeah, you should be able to read through this stuff in a couple of hours and then you're done. Okay, so that was a high-level overview of all the content with the program. Now, how should you study? Okay, so when I first started, I was a noob. For Course 1, I read all the slides and I hand wrote notes because that's how I used to study in university. And for Course 1, this worked okay. I was kind of slow. It took me probably a week or two longer because I hand wrote notes. Don't handwrite notes and copy paste everything that you read on the PDFs because when you get to Course 2, it's just impossible. The content, I printed it out. Course 2 is like that big. It's impossible to handwrite everything out. It's going to take way too much time. If I were to redo it, I wouldn't even handwrite notes for Course 1. That is not the right strategy. It will slow you down. Now, Course 2 onwards, I had a completely different strategy and it was much faster for me. What I did was I printed out all the modules on paper, and yeah, I had stacks of paper like so high, but for me, it was much more efficient because I wasn't distracted by the screen, no notifications distracting me, and I felt like I retain and absorb information better when it's on paper. Now, I also use the computer, of course, because at the end of certain chapters, there's actually quizzes, and when you do it on the computer, it will tell you what is right and what is wrong and why. So what I did was I would read through the entire module, do the quizzes, and translate the answers on paper, and then I would put away the computer and I would just reread the course material over and over and over again on paper, and that's what worked for me. I didn't use any third-party software because, to be honest, the content is quite simple. The difficulty lies in the quantity of the content. Now, don't worry too much about the specifics. As long as you thoroughly understand the concepts from a high level, you should be fine. For example, there was one concept and it was 3 pages long because I printed it out on discounted cash flow analysis. And in my mind, I was like, what? We're doing DCFs here? Are you for real? But the concept wasn't even asked on the exam, not even one question in regards to DCFs. So as long as you understand the concepts from a high level, you should be fine. Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate because sometimes they do ask really specific questions. For example, I remember on one exam question, they asked something like, what year was the Ontario Fire Code created? And in my mind, I was like, are you kidding me? But the goal is to pass with a 75, not to get 100%. So how I like to think of it is, let those questions go. I'm more than comfortable guessing those really specific questions because 80–90% of the exam are reasonable questions that cover the main concepts in each module. So as long as you really thoroughly understand the main concepts, we can let a few random difficult questions slide by. Okay, now we know what's on the modules. We know how to study. There are 2 final tips on how to get it fast. What I did was, in order to actually book the exam after the module, you have to complete clicking through the PDFs the first time. That's how they give you access to booking the exams. So literally what I did was, as soon as I got access to course 1, 2, 3, 4, I wouldn't even read the slides. I would just click through. I would literally just click through. I actually paid my sister $5 to click through one of them because that way, when you click through the first, let's say course 2, you can book the exam right away. that motivates you because you're like, okay, I know maybe 2 weeks isn't enough. Maybe it's just enough. Screw it. I'm going to book the exam in 2 weeks. That forces you to study and finish all that material in 2 weeks. Otherwise, you take your time reading it the first time round, and then last minute you book the exam, and it's sort of like, yeah, you're just not going to do it as fast. So click through it the first time, book the exam, and you should be good to go. Now, the other thing is you can do the exam virtually. Now, this was very, very frustrating at Humber College because you're allowed to do it virtually, but they're so specific. The proctors are online. They probably outsource the people, the proctors, and the rule is you have to be in a room with 3 white walls with no artwork, nothing hanging. So for example, this room wouldn't even work. I wouldn't even be allowed to write the exam virtually if I was in this room. I'd have to take down all this stuff, take down the map. I remember writing it in the condo. The proctor was like, because there's an online app on your phone, you have to scan your room. They were confused. They were like, you can't have artwork. And then they were like, what's that? I was like, that's my coat hanger. And they were like, no, you can't have that. There needs to be nothing. And I couldn't find a space. I was in a 1-bedroom condo and there was no space that I could write my exam. And frustrating, right? Because I couldn't do it. So I wasted about a week, actually 2 weeks, because I had to rebook the exam and do it in person. So afterwards, I just went to, it's in Toronto. It's near like the junction. I don't remember quite where the exam place is, but instead of writing it online, I actually went in person and wrote the exams, and it was a lot easier. It was a lot less stressful for me to actually go in person and write the exams. Now, if you have a room where you can find 3 blank white walls, do it in person. It'll be a lot faster. You don't need to commute. But if you were like me and don't have a room where you can write an exam, book it in person as fast as possible, and those spots fill up. So book those exams as fast as possible. The last thing is the simulation sessions have slots allotted to them. Courses, whatever, they just hand out the PDFs, right? But simulation sessions are with actual teachers and other classmates. So as soon as you're done course 3 and course 4 and you're ready for the simulation session, book them as fast as possible. They're either fully on weekdays or they're on weekends, so find a time that works with your schedule and book it as fast as possible. Doesn't matter which class you're in, but it does matter because they fill up quick. I remember one time for Sim 1, I couldn't get the slot and I had to wait another week to get my license, and time is money, right? So book, book, book. That's it for this video. Just remember, keep the momentum going, limit the time between courses, exams, and simulation sessions, and you should be able to do it even faster than me. I did it in 5.5 months while working full time. And if you do beat me and do it faster than me, reach out to me. I'll treat you to a meal. Hats off to you. And that's it for this video. If you've completed the course, you're now a licensed real estate agent here in Ontario. I will see you out there in the real world. Hopefully this video helps. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.